Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go.
Hard. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's rock right into it, except for I got a cough. And now I'm good. All right, so we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, podcast family. I am so excited about this episode. You guys, I have a guest back on the show. She was back with us in season 1. Her episode dropped in October of 2022. Today, I am joined by Courtney McCarron, who previously was a sexual assault review coordinator with the RCMP. But now, 2.5 years later, my girl is climbing those ranks. She is now a staff sergeant major with K Division at headquarters. She is just underneath their commanding officer, and she is going to share with us the whole fuck of a lot that's gone on in 2.5 years. So welcome back, Courtney. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, I'm doing great. It's awesome to be back. And yeah, there's been a lot. There's been a lot that's happened in those 2.5 years. Yeah, let's go. You tell me what you want to know, and I'm here to talk.
Well, it's so it's so crazy because this morning I was going back and I was like, God, when was she on the show? And oh my God, 2.5 years. And then I started thinking even where I was at 2.5 years ago and all the things that I've gone through, which is a fraction of what you've gone through. But it's crazy how time just flies, but then also seems like it didn't move at all. I feel we just were chatting last month about, what you were doing with the sexual assault review stuff. And I've seen, your posts and little things here, oh, I'm trying this new thing. And oh, I've moved into this thing. And then I saw your recent post about this big, huge promotion. And I just have to say straight up, so fucking proud of you. I am just, to me, this is just, I feel like it fits exactly who you are. I feel like it's just such a great spot for you to really kind of thrive and expand and just bring your crazy energy. And I think you're going to do so good at it. So just way to go on that. And then I guess I just want to kind of dive through all the different things that you did along the way, because you, at the time, you were in that role you were in, you were trying to get into that sergeant role and you kind of getting cock blocked a little bit. And there was some stuff going on there and just, fighting the system as we all freaking do as we move through our careers. And then, I think you'd switch to a different kind of role that was similar to what you were doing. And then, but had to give up your baby, which was this program that you had built with, following in Tamara's footsteps, right? Mm-hmm, which again is a huge thing. So what unfolded? How did you get from where you were there to now into this staff sergeant role? And I'd love to know a little bit more about what this role entails and what you're really going to be doing kind of on day to day.
Sure. Well, I'll give a little bit, I guess, a review for anybody that's not going back to that original podcast there. So in 2019, my best friend died suddenly. Tamara Sampson, we played rugby together. Nikki, I know you know her well, and she was just a power horse of a woman on the rugby field, but also at work, right? Very admired, very respected, very knowledgeable, just well loved. And so she was working on there's some new mandates coming from national headquarters in Ottawa about sexual assault. And so I had worked with her a little bit on this. And then I had taken a job over with the province on Secomment. And so, of course, she suddenly passed away. And I was pulled back and asked by the assistant commissioner at the time, will you be the sexual assault review coordinator? And 100%, this was my opportunity to honor my sister. This was an opportunity to and I knew the type of work she did and the reputation she did. So it was a chance to really, and again, she was a massive woman. And I always joke, those are big high grounds to fill. It truly was walking in her footsteps and trying to just do honor to her and make her proud. And so stepping back now, I recognize how too deep I was into that job and how too personal it was for me, and hence why it created the trauma that it did create. But essentially, I spent 4 years, so all throughout COVID. I did have some assistance throughout from time to time, but more or less spent 4 years building that program on my own and from the ground up. Like we had nothing on sexual violence, and went from having suddenly police and victim services support programs throughout Alberta to training into policy and to establishing a set review process and relationship with the chief crown prosecutor and ultimately improving our officers' response to sexual violence and improving the amount of caseloads that were actually even going to court and charges being laid, like doing phenomenal work, created the unit, created positions. And then I was acting in the sergeant spot for a while. I was a corporal when I started it all. And it was politics. It was in-house politics. And the word that was used for me was, you were a victim of process. It wasn't personal. You were a victim of process. But I had to make a decision as, do I stay or do I leave? And it tore me apart. Like it caused a lot of trauma to walk away from what I dedicated so much of my life to. And I felt like I failed Tamara. I felt like I failed the RCMP. I felt like I failed all these officers who supported me. And then I had to like really step back and go, like, nobody can take away what you did. The whole thing could dissolve tomorrow and be gone, but nobody could take away what I did. And the difference that I made. And if it was just improving, our police officer response for one victim, and now that victim had a better outcome than she would have had, then, I always rest on that. Like, it's worth it if you can change one life. And so, but it was hard. It was really, it felt like being stabbed in the back by an organization. It felt like, and I knew people had my back, and I'm going, well, why isn't anybody doing anything about it? And again, politics and process and government, there was a lot that tied people's hands, and maybe there was things people could have done better or what, I don't know. Right. But at the end of the day, I got into a spot where mentally, like, everything came crumbling down. Right. So the grief of losing Tamara was amplified because now I've lost this program that I built in her honor. Right. And received all kinds of accolades for. And so the grief of that was huge. And it really did come crushing down on me. And I can remember that fall, like, just right, like after our podcast, like I was just in such a state where even a hug from my kids was overwhelming. It was overstimulating, and it would I would tense up and I couldn't take it. And and I remember saying to my therapist, like, joy, like it was around Christmas time. I finally took some leave. I finally had to go off because I'd come into work, and one day you're good. And I'm sure there's listeners that feel this, right? Like, you come into work and one day you're like, I'm like, I got this. It's okay. I'm going to help this other person. Like, I'm going to get them up to par. I can still do this. Like, swallow your ego, swallow your pride, just do the work that needs to be done. And I'm like, I can still make a difference. And I'd plug away and be good. And the next day I'd come in and I'd stare at my computer and I'd cry, and I'd end up in somebody's office crying for an hour. And then I'd be crying for 40 minutes on my way home to my boss. Like, I'm just like, I'm not okay. Like, I'm just like, I'm not okay. And it was hard to let it go. I fought what I felt like I could fight, and then had to realize, like, this is not my decision. It's not my fight. And so I ended up in a really, like, mentally hard spot. Like, again, no joy. It was around Christmas time. It took every ounce of strength to put a tree up, let alone any of the decorations for the house. Like, it was very minimal. Trying my best. My oldest, who's too intuitive and too smart, would be like, Mom, why do you look so sad? I'm like, oh, I just miss our cat that died 3 months ago still, right? Like, trying to make, and my boss would call me and check in, and I just cry, and I would go around the house trying to do stuff. I would spontaneously burst out crying, and like I was constantly trying to hold it in. I'd constantly go to the bathroom. I end up crying so the kids didn't see. And just like, and then anger, like so much anger. And I'm not a person that ever wants to hold hate or resentment or anything, but the amount of anger I felt was just infuriated, and just trying to contain, like, not even knowing where it was coming from. Right. And then a lot of that couples with PTSD for sure, but just like, I was in such a bad spot. And so mental health to me is so important, right? Like, I recognize it was in a good spot. The last thing I'm going to do is start drinking wine or alcohol, which most people say, oh, you need some wine. Like, no, I sure shit don't. Right. And I'm talking to my therapist. I'm like, I'm trying all the things, and like, I'm taking, all the omega-3s, and And I'm doing yoga. And she's like, oh, girl, like yoga ain't going to fix this. Like, we have some deep issues here. And I'm just like, oh, and it's like, I felt, and, and I couple that with not having support and acknowledgement from my spouse at the time. Right. And so like, I've since done a lot of work in trauma. I've done a lot with teaching about trauma and how to lead trauma-informed responses and these sort of things. And so like, even in your own life, like if you don't have these sort of like three things of acknowledgement, support, and trust, then that trauma is going to compound and it's really going to build up. Right. And so in my own personal life, I had great people at work. I still had some fantastic leaders that I will always be indebted to and be grateful for their support of me. But in my personal life, my home life, my spouse, I didn't have somebody that was willing to acknowledge what happened to me and how devastating it was and how the compound effect was Tamara's death. Who was very much deflective. Don't talk about it. We're not talking about work. I don't want to talk about it. No, like I just got home from work. I don't want to hear it. I had somebody that didn't support. There was no support at all. Like he saw this as, oh, great. You can just go off to be sick now for 2 years and get your full paycheck like everybody else gets. Like, we'll just do that. And I'm like, that goes against my core and my morals, my values. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that. And then there was no trust. There was no trust with him being able to handle my emotions because I get like, you're fucked up. Your job fucked you up. You need to get help. Like, oh shit, Einstein, I'm trying here.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, and I went off. I had some great officers I'll always be thankful for and grateful for, and gave me lots of advice. Lots of people willing just to say, can I give you something? People looking for a job, or can I give you a placement? Like, what can we do to, like, where can we put you, sort of thing. And, and that goes back to like, I earned that. Like I worked my ass off hard my entire career. Reputation supersedes you. Right. And I've always had pride in what I've done. I've always held true to integrity and doing the things for the right reason, and always strive to just do the best that I knew how to do. And that's your reputation, and that supersedes you. Right. And that's when you go into a spot and you have people that go, I want that person. And one officer who I admire dearly, he even said, like, like, we're all going to be selfish here. Of course, everybody's coming out of the woodwork and want you, because we've seen what you did. Nobody else in my career has ever done what you did in 4 years by yourself through a pandemic. And of course, we're going to be selfish and want you in our business line so that you can make us look good too. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that compliment. So I did take a couple months off. I needed to, but I had to be careful. Like I sat in an office and I was in criminal operations. And so it was all executive officers. I knew most of our executive managers throughout the province, and including our commanding officer. So my name was known, and I had to be careful because I knew everybody was watching me as how I was going to respond. Are you going to go off duty mad? Are you going to be pissy? Are you going to now suddenly say, well, F you guys, I'm not doing anything anymore? Like, how are you going to respond? And people are watching. And, I had some people say, any response is acceptable. Like any response, people would understand. Right?
Yeah.
But what do you want? What do you want from your career? And that was probably the biggest one, where I had to sit back and I thought, like, I had so much passion for that sexual violence job. Like I would literally be brushing my teeth at 11 o'clock at night and get an idea and be like, oh my God, we're going to do this, and go to the drawing board, write notes down. And next thing you know, we were on that path and we were building that program, or we had this idea in place, or this resource was suddenly published, right? Like it fueled that creativity-ness in me that I loved as well. But at the same time, I felt like I was actually making a difference to our members and to the public. And so it gave me so much without me knowing too what it was taken away. Right. But anyway, so then I did take the time. I needed to take some time just to get my head right, just to stop being so angry, focus on what I'm going to do. And I sat there for a minute and go, like, is this what I want to do? Do I want to be in this organization anymore? Like, what else can I do? Right. And so I actually started looking outside and applied for a couple of things. And then I thought, like, what is it about the RCMP? And I came back to, like, yeah, there's some people that make decisions and we could do better. But I still hold, like, so much pride for this organization and for what it is. And I know what our members do every day. And I know the struggle that all police officers have, but especially looking at our members in some of these more remote places, and resources are short and those sort of things. And I go, what is it that our organization needs? to be better. And it's like, it needs leaders. It needs proper leadership. It needs people to have foresight to see the type of harm these sort of actions can cause, not just to your employee, but to the organization, to the public. You need people with foresight, and you need people that are actual leaders. And I thought, if I leave right now, then it's not going to be any better. And it's not that I like ego and think I'm great, but I know I can lead, and I know I lead with integrity. And so my thought was, if I leave, it doesn't get better, but I can stay and I can become that leader in this organization that it needs. And I'm not saying that I can come in and change this organization, but I might be able to change a business line. I might be able to change one member's life. I might be able to establish one unit that's really great. And like those little small ripples that we throw in, those little rocks we throw in the water, those ripples they make, like they're far reaching, right? And maybe my ripple eventually dies out, but it causes somebody else to go off on that, right? So that was really kind of what brought me back. I had to really evaluate my life, like what was important. Like, you know, and at that point, I'm like, whatever, I can go make good money somewhere else and find pension. But like, you know, that wasn't, it was purpose. And I thought, no, like I have a purpose in this organization, and we can do better. And I know we can do better. So I had applied for another job in emergency management. Never thought I'd do emergency management. I've learned really quickly. And I would say like the last 8 years or so, you never turn down an opportunity, right? Like you have a career path in mind. When I joined, this young buck from Newfoundland, no idea, not even knowing how to tie my shoe, I thought I was going to be PDS and go work like Ellesmere Island or like North, you could like somewhere. That's no, I never ever did any of that. And the positions and the jobs I've done, I've never ever thought that I would do. So you never say no to an opportunity because you don't know what you'll learn and you don't know what you'll like from that. So I went into emergency management, no clue about emergency management. I knew how to be a police officer, and then found like there was a component of that needed work, and that'd be victim management in a major event. So I got to do some work on that and bring that expertise forward, and then really learn a lot about that side of things. And then I got an opportunity to go into conduct as an advisor, and numbers member, and I believe wholeheartedly I've always been a union rep with RCMP and recently with the National Police Federation. And so I always hold true to like, we have good members who mess up and they need help and they need support. This can help me do that. And we have some members that, well, you just need to go, right? Because you're tainting it for everybody. So I went into conduct thinking I would love it, and I didn't love it. But fantastic unit. Like you go to work every day, you're happy because you work with great people. That to me is a win, right? I'm very grateful for that experience because it certainly has helped me in this new role. But again, like you just don't say no. And then finally an opportunity came up for me to apply for promotion back in criminal operations where I had worked. And I did that. And so, and was successful in that job. And then you fast forward to, I guess like the last year, the sergeant major had wanted me. I did some work with her on our funeral that we had in 23. And then she had helped me a lot with Tamara's funeral. I did a lot of planning for Tamara's funeral. So she was just fantastic support and help for me through that. And so she had come to me 3 times to see if I'd be interested in coming over. And each time I just had hit a new unit, and I'm like, oh, it's like, there's other people that have a say in this. And, and I would never think in a million years this would be my job. You go back 19 and a half years ago with me being a baby cadet at depot, no freaking way would I ever do this job, right? And so really what I'm in right now as a warrant officer, and we see so much. A lot of it is like drill and deportment, holding the traditions of the RCMP, making sure we're upholding values of the RCMP. There's a lot of risk assessment that comes in play with things, but overseeing uniform and equipment. Also oversee performance enhancement. So if we have employees that just aren't meeting the mark, engaging with supervisors and other right units to make sure that we got them on the right plan, the right support, the supervisors are doing the right things, and how to engage, the different HR components of getting somebody through that process. And so there's a lot that falls on our plate. And of course, being like a drill sergeant, which is, I guess, is what most people would know it as. There's like the leading parade and inspecting troops, and this is where, like, people laugh a little bit at me because, I'm so well kept together. And ironing my shirt has been a challenge for sure. Like it has taken me forever to get this damn crease in this shirt. And it's not fun. I don't like that. And I've kind of gotten down to the polishing of the boots. I mean, not without swearing for sure. And I'll make sure there's a good football game on to distract me from the agony of polishing your boots. So, this whole like neat and tidy and be perfect is so not me, but there's an importance to it. And I recognize the importance to it. But I also recognize like this role is so much more about yelling at people because you're not wearing your hat. Nobody wears their hat. Who cares? Right? We're not yelling at people for that. We're not yelling at you because you don't have a tie on. It's about leadership. It's about instilling core values. It's about instilling honor and pride in the organization and being that person, right? Like really this role is the intimacy between our commanding officer's office. So when we go out into the field and we talk to members, we're really representing his office. And when I come into his office to talk to him, I'm really representing the field, and whether that's officers or non-commissioned officers. And so it's understanding what you represent, and really just, I see this role as being a leader and help paving the way for other women. Like this is typically, we've got way more females now in the warrant officer throughout the country. I believe, nobody's corrected me on this yet, but I believe myself and Staff Sergeant Major Lynn Collins are the first female warrant officer team in the country. So most provinces have two, exception of E Division with BC. So it's exciting to start seeing more and more women in these very typical male dominated roles, right? But again, like, I go back to depot. Yeah, I was not liked in drill. Like I got a U in drill. I was unacceptable in drill. They didn't like my flyaway hair, didn't like my dark eyelashes that I had no control over because that's called genetics. And I had no, like, I hated how they, yelled at you and everything else. And so it's funny to fast forward today to see that this is for a moment. I got to say, it's the first job I think I've ever done in RCMP where I'm a little bit nervous because there's so much to learn. And I'm like, don't send me to depot. I can't yell at a parade. I yell at kids. I yell at my kids. I can't yell at people. Right? Like, they're not bad guys. Like I'm going to do this and crack up laughing. And so it's been a lot to learn about, again, like even protocols, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you have the lieutenant governor come in and we have to do this song and this salute and this, like, do it.
Yeah.
Right? So there's so much to learn, which I love. Yeah. And it's been interesting. There's a lot of community engagement to it as well, which is fun. Mm-hmm. Like it's, you always get pride. And I feel sometimes as police officers, we just get disgruntled. Right? We get disgruntled against the big machine. Mm-hmm. Like, F them and they don't care and you're just a number. And it's sad that people are made to feel that way. And I've certainly been made to feel that way. Yeah. But, when you put that ceremonial red serge on and your boots and your Stetson or whatever your ceremonial outfit is on, and you go out into public and you just see the awe in people's eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And you see like, wow, there is pride in having that and appreciation. And we're in a day and age where law enforcement in general is not as appreciated as what it used to be, right? Mm-hmm. But when you see those people and they're like, can I get a picture? And like, I love the RCMP and my father was RCMP or my cousin or whatever, like connection. And it's meaningful to so many people. And we're an iconic symbol of Canada as the RCMP. Like mm-hmm. How much more pride do you need to have? And so I appreciate it's easy to get caught up in the weeds of like, you're overworked and there's too many files and you don't have enough people or like, we don't have new equipment or where's our new gun? Like you get caught in those things. But when you hold back to like, why did I do this job? What was my why? Right? Mm-hmm. What was my why here? Am I meeting my why? Mm-hmm. And I look like I wanted to serve people. I wanted to do good for communities. I wanted to help people. And even though I'm not gunslinging in the streets anymore, I have an opportunity to help our members so that they can go and do that job better. And I have an opportunity to really broadcast and show the people of the RCMP and how we're working to make it better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, I mean, it's great. And people always ask me, like, how did you become so resilient? And, and I'm not sure. I just think I'm really stubborn and I refuse to quit is probably, the answer there. But like, there is good people in this organization. There is people that helped me through for sure that dark period. And I guess what I failed to leave out there was shortly before coming in this job. So my spouse and I ended up splitting. We ended up separating after about 13 years together. And so we talk about like life being hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody's life is freaking hard, and you're going to have moments where it's harder. And I basically raised those 3 babies on my own.
Mm-hmm.
They were 3 and 3. Don't recommend that. That's not. I don't recommend that to anybody. If you like your sanity, if you don't have support.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there.
But I think sometimes like there's certain people that are just built for hard stuff, and it gets tiring. For sure, it's tiring, right? Like you want to break sometime. But for me, resiliency is I can't quit. I can't quit. Like I can't freaking quit. There's 3 little people relying on me. I'm relying on myself, and I have goals, and I wanna do something good, and I can't quit. And so many people had said, like, you're in your full purview just to stay home and not work and be mad. I'm like, man, what does that accomplish other than being home, being mad? It's not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
And I can be home and be mad, or I can swallow that and come back to work, and I can try to make it better so that nobody else has to go through that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think I dumped a lot on you there.
No, it's, you know what? It's so like, there's so many different things that you like touched on that like I also felt through my journey. Like one of the first things that like I kind of twigged on was that sense of betrayal of like, why isn't anybody helping me? Aren't you seeing this fucking bullshit happening to me? Why aren't you stepping up? Like you say you love my work. You say you love the effort that I put in. You say that, oh, I'm this amazing person who's making all this positive change. Well, where the fuck are you when the decisions are being made? Why are you not speaking up? Because I know you're in that room. I know you're in that boardroom. I know you're hearing that. So why aren't you fucking speaking up? And so I remember that betrayal and that anger. And that was a big thing for me. That was like a big, because you expect to get betrayed by the bad guys. You expect to get betrayed by, the public to fucking hate you. You expect that. But when it comes from the people that are wearing the same uniform as you, it's like the hardest thing to swallow. You just can't because it's been drilled into your head that these are your family, these are your brothers and sisters, and they've got your back. And then when you realize that they don't have your back, it's like, oh, it's like gut wrenching, like heart ripping gut wrenching. And so I totally understand that. And that sadness and anger and just not being able to like control it, even though you're trying to stuff it down. And same thing. It was me too, crying in the bathroom, fucking crying in my car, making sure my kids can't see it, trying to fucking pull myself together. Before I'd go in the house, I'd be like, practice my smile in my car so that I can come in. But I mean, your kids know. They instantly they look at you and be like, oh, mom, is that a bad day? And like disappear, right? Like this, or try and come to you and make you feel better, hug you like, oh, mom, and you're just like, get the fuck away from me. I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
So I totally get all that. And then the other thing that you were saying, about that, just stuff it down, go back to work, stuff it down, go back to work. I'm going to have a good day and then I'm going to have a bad day and I'm going to have a good day and I'm going to have a bad day. And how exhausting that becomes until you finally realize that like you're not okay. And again, doing all the right things, doing the yoga, doing the meditation, doing the breathing, doing the fucking, and for me, not necessarily always doing the right things, probably drinking too much. Yes. Taking sleeping pills. Yes. Like stupid shit like that just to cope, even though you knew you weren't okay, but still not acknowledging it enough to say like, okay, no, like something has to change until it gets to the point where it's so fucking bad you can't cope at all. Now you're not even coping. And then being like, oh, wow, my body's really been telling me this for like the last 3 months. And I've just been like, no body, we're good. Shut up.
Yeah. What do you know?
You're fine. Actually, you're fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I did get that. And then the question I had for you. So I love that you took your experience from the sexual assault unit into the victim like services unit. I think what a great transition and things like that. You said for major events. So what would be a major event, like a homicide, the family is there, or
so when I'm talking about victim management in a major event, I'm talking about more like a mass casualty incident where you're going to have multiple victims, right? So a lot of this is, of course, like best lessons learned from Porta Peak in Nova Scotia with that mass shooting incident that had happened there, and as well as James Cree, where there was that massive stabbing there. So we've learned a lot. And I guess we could say, like, I mean, we're fortunate in Canada. These events are so few and far between. There are daily occurrences in the US and UK, but very, very few and far between for us in Canada. But one thing that we've gotten to learn from our partners in the US and in UK is the need to properly victim manage, need to have proper resources, whether it's for your members or for the public, and the need for information and, and understanding that you need that victim on board because you might need information about their loved one and figure out, is the loved one actually a suspect or not, or how, like, was it targeted or not? And you're not going to get that cooperation if they feel disconnected from you, right? So again, all these mass casualty events that have occurred in the world have continued to show us how important that is. And it's something that's truly been missing from being embedded into an incident command structure and having that piece there. So it could be something as simple as a natural disaster. Maybe it's a gas line explosion. Maybe it is a terrorist attack, or maybe it was, a train derailment, like whatever that might have caused multiple casualties, be it, deceased people or injured people. How do you properly manage all those people? So I developed the first really training for that, on how to be a family liaison officer, how to engage with families, how to deliver next of kin notifications, how to be trauma informed in your everyday policing, whether you're pulling somebody over from a police car or whether you're dealing with a homicide. How do you be trauma informed? Or even internally, how do you work with how do you have a trauma informed approach to the coworker that you have, or to somebody maybe that you're going to put on conduct or whatever have you, right? So I love that I got to take that over there and apply it there. And I see room for it in this role for sure. Like, where there's lots that we want to do now that there's two of us in this position, that in this office, there's lots more that we want to do in terms of properly onboard into detachment commanders and training for detachment commanders. And I see a lot of value in making sure our senior management team and our supervisors in general know about trauma, know about how to engage appropriately with staff following an incident, right? Regardless if it's super, super major, or if maybe it's a terrible fatality that your member had to respond to. Like, how are we dealing with that and dealing with those people? And so it's something that I continue to take with me for sure. And I'm not losing that knowledge. And so I appreciate, like, again, like everything kind of leads you to one spot to another, right? Yeah. And if I didn't have what happened in K-Start, if I didn't have that program basically reassigned or leave that program, I wouldn't have gone into emergency management. I wouldn't have gone to feel for what we need there. I wouldn't have gone into conduct. I wouldn't have come here. And now I sit here and I can see the perspectives of all these different units. When the situation happens, I can look at it from the conduct perspective, or from a high risk perspective from operations, or from our perspective, like, is this going to discredit the RCMP? Is there something that, conduct or professionalism that we need to work on, or uniform and equipment that we need to work on? So it's like, my career is really, I've just taken that flow of be open. Like, just be open. I mean, great, have careers and work towards something. If it's homicide and you want to do major crime homicide, like do your courses and do everything that to get like lots of interviews, do all the work to get you into that sort of unit. But I feel like my biggest thing I've learned in my career is not to pigeonhole myself and just be open and just be flexible and be versatile. And I feel like I've become that member now that's very versatile, so that should another major event happen, I can go into multiple different roles. Or should there be something that needs to be created or developed, like I have expertise that can be relied on for that, opposed to just being like a one trade girl.
Yeah. It's very interesting you say that, because I've had a couple other RCMP officers on, both rugby girls that you would know. So Mary Ev and one of the anti-D girls, Kelsey Smith. And so they both of them have said the same thing. Like, I never thought I would be doing this, right? Like Mary Ev's now in major collisions. Never thought coming from the Yukon, never thought she was going to do it, right?
Right.
You know, Smith's came from like small town, rural frickin' Saskatchewan, and then was doing major crimes. Like, and she's just like, again, as a kid in depot, that was never my like, and she's like, or it kind of was, but it took me like zigzag. Oh, and then I made it there, right? And she's like, but along the way, I've picked up all these skill sets. I've picked up all this knowledge that I'm such a more well-rounded person, and I have a different perspective, which I think is like, that's a huge part of it. You can come into it with that laser focus, but you do lose that kind of bigger picture of like, what does this actually look like for this side of the coin, or this group of people, or this type of officer? Or so, yeah, I really agree with that. You know, like, take any opportunity that you can. You're always going to learn something. Or network. For me, networks are huge. Like, the people that I would meet, that I'd be like, oh, that was such a cool person I met on that course. And then 10 years down the line, it's like, oh, wait, I know I met a guy on a course 10 years ago. I'm just going to reach out and see. And the person come back to me and be like, fuck yes, let's do it. Like, great to hear from you, And like, if I hadn't taken that course, which I didn't really want to fucking take, and kind of, I had to take 2 days off work, whatever it was, but I wouldn't have that network when I needed it 10 years down the line, or 2 years, or a year down the line. Right. So yeah. The other thing I was going to ask you too is, so you said, you went into conduct and you didn't like it. So what was it that you didn't like? Was it like the politics around it? Was it the work itself? What part of conduct was not your jam?
I found for us, like, it was a process that's very, I don't want to say well established, but it's a process that's it's directed from Ottawa. This is how it is. Here you go. So everything is copy paste. Like, and so what I really strive in and what I love doing is being able to see where there's gaps in something and make improvement, right? Or, hey, we don't have a policy on that. We don't have a program on that, or we don't have a protocol on that. Like, we should have something, or we would benefit by making this better. And so it was a place where it's so defined and set out by headquarters in Ottawa that there was really no room to make it better. There was just, there's a lot of politics at the higher level with it. And we would see things where it's like, the timeliness of things going through. Well, that's all virtual. That's DOJ. They run all those hearings, and we have no control really in trying to expedite things or get things through in a timely manner. So you really truly didn't have any real ability to improve. It was literally like, you knew how to do your job and everything else. And you knew how to guide so a lot of what I did was guiding the managers on whether or not we should go conduct, if it should be performance, or what's the best way to handle the situation. But really, like, there was not much room to make it better, to actually improve the process, to be more efficient for our members. Right. And that's the part I didn't like. Is not feeling like you're actually contributing to change and making things better, which is what I, again, thrive off. But at the same time, like, it was what I needed for that time in my life. Right? So this is what people need to recognize. Like, whatever you believe in, a karma, universe, whatever, nothing, I don't care. Things happen to you for a reason, right? And I said to you from the beginning, like, everything negative comes to be so that something positive can result. Like, I went into that unit in a very bad time in my life. I had just separated from my husband. We were still living together, trying to navigate, the kids and not telling the kids. And then there was a lot of issues with my middle kid. I found out he was going through some abuse at his school. And it was just like one thing after another, where honestly, I did not have the capacity to be in a position where I needed to devote 110% of my effort, like I've done with KSART or other programs I've been in, right? So it really was a position where I found like I could just come to work. I knew how to do my work, submit, had great employees to work with, like had a good laugh with people, was well supported in that unit, and you enjoy coming to work because of who's there in the unit. And that's exactly what I needed in that point in my life, because my life was so maxed and so stressed. And again, like we are in the midst of this separation and then selling the family home and trying to relocate it from one area of Edmonton to from Parkland to Sherwood Park. And so just everything is up in the air. And like literally my personal life couldn't be any more up in the air than what it was at that point. So I believe like that job came around for a reason. Again, like I've taken things from it for sure. And it was what I needed in terms of I can come to work and not be stressed. Work did not stress me out. And that was important, right? And sometimes you just need a job where, and again, like not everybody is like you, these eager beavers is like, go, let's change the world, right? Like everybody has that, and sometimes that gets tiring, and I appreciate that. But, I didn't like, there wasn't any, I guess, added pressure to like perform or to create things or to like, okay, build this. Whereas my previous roles, it's all been like, create something for us. So yeah, it was a good break that way. And then gave me an opportunity to just like, really, I could come to work and decompress. Like, and just like, safe zone. And then prepare to go back home for whatever it was being faced with.
Yeah. It is. We say this a lot, like in that first responder world, is like, you need to have either one or the other has to be a safe space. So it can either be work is a safe space where you go and you're like, I need a fucking break from my outside life and I'm going to go to work and that's my break. Or it's like, I need a break from this fucking work and I'm going to go home and that's my break. Right. And sometimes, and it's always ebbing and flowing. Sometimes it's home, sometimes it's work. But when both of them are chaotic and you are feeling maxed in both spaces, that's when it's all falling apart. You need at least one or the other to be a constant safe space for you to be able to fucking exist and not be constantly in that like troubleshooting, problem solving, fucking dealing with crisis, like that feeling of like, fuck, I don't want to go. I don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with this. I'd rather be here. Right. So yeah, I can totally see that. And then coming into this staff sergeant major, when I first saw your post, you were like, you'd said, how am I supposed to be a drill sergeant? And I was like, bitch, please, I could totally see you doing this. I was like, I've seen you coach. I'm like, what is she talking about? She will be just fine at this role. But I do love how you're saying ironing your shirt, because I was talking to a friend and she had applied to the RCMP years and years ago, like I want to say 30 years ago. Went through depot and then blew her knee, just like we were talking about, but blew it so bad, like not repairable, not able to return. And we were just talking about, her time in depot 30 years ago. And she was saying, I could not iron my shirt to save my fucking life. Like every single time I did it wrong. We would get in trouble all the time. And she's like, but because she was a lifeguard with me, she's like, I could clean like a motherfucker. And I could use the floor buffer to buff the floor that had to be done in the dorms. And she's like, so I just traded. I will buff all of your fucking dorms if you guys will iron my shirts for me. And she was like, and that's how I got through depot. And I was like, I fucking love that. Like nothing like a little bit of teamwork, a little ingenuity to get yourself through it. Right.
Yeah.
So you just got to find somebody you can trade off with. Like I have this skill, you can iron and I cannot. So you iron my shit and I'll come to work and my shirt will be here ironed, but I will do this.
Yeah. I mean, is that not just like amazing leadership qualities right there? Because a leader isn't being the best at everything. It's having the best in under you, right? It's having those people who it's like, okay, you're good at this. You're good at this. Like, let's figure this out. So no, it's exciting. I got to say, I feel very honored to be in this role. There's not too many people that get to do this. And it's a lot of fun things. There's a lot of community events. You get to meet a lot of like really cool people, and like you get to go to like, CFL games and NHL games and meet all kinds of people that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to meet in everyday life. And it just, it shows to me too, like just the versatility of the RCMP, right? Like I came in here with such a narrow mindset at 20, 21 years old. I wanted to be a police dog handler, live up north. This is it. And everything was so narrow. And when I got to Fort Mac, my first post, it was like, I love doing drug work. I love doing search warrants. And that quickly became something I was good at. And so I was like, I'm going to get into the drug unit. And no, I got into persons crime unit, which I hated interviewing people, but I was told that would be the gateway to get into drug unit. And I believed them, but really it was, I got stuck on homicides for 4 years, but then loved that. Right.
Yes.
So like things, it's just so funny when I look back on the last 19 years of my career, where I've gone and how I've gotten there. And it's not to say you didn't fuck up a lot along the way, because I sure should have, and again, like 20-year-old me, there was lots for her to learn, lots of attitude to curb, lots of like getting in line that needed to be done. But I look at this career and where it can take you, and literally the RCMP can take you from sports. Right? We have deployment spots, so we have every sort of job. And if you're open, like you just be open, like again, be open, and you'll get to experience a full career. And I think the other thing I would encourage people is like, yeah, we're always going to run into people that we don't want to work with, or people that we don't like, or maybe have a bad boss. And that certainly that makes or breaks whether you're going to have a good day at work. Right. But I think one thing that I kind of like, when this whole thing, like K-Star happened, there's a lot of people like that were said to me, like, I can't believe you went back to work after what they did to you. And like, how do you do that? Like and I'm just like, what did they do to me? I said, somebody made a political decision and it impacted me for sure. Right. I said, but the RCMP didn't cause me PTSD. The fact that I became a police officer and decided to do a job that is inadvertently filled with violence and grief and harm and death and tragedy made me have PTSD, not the RCMP. And so I said, and maybe there's people within the organization that could do better, learn to treat employees better, see the effect of what they're doing. And that creates, again, that type of trail, and that amplifies, for sure, it can amplify PTSD. But I'm like, the RCMP didn't cause this. Like, this is a result of the career choice I made. And I signed up maybe at 21 years old, not really fully knowing what I was getting into. But you sign up knowing, and I said this to my HR guy a few years ago. I said, I signed up for this job knowing I might have to take bullets. Right? Like that's ultimately, we know as a police officer, you might have to take a bullet for somebody. Are you willing to do that? Okay, sign this oath. Right? I said, what we are not taught is what those bullets look like. And sometimes those bullets are not lead. Sometimes those bullets are trauma. Sometimes it's compassion fatigue. Sometimes it's politics. Like it could be any number of things. And so what we need to realize is that, we signed up for a job that is not for the weak. And it's okay to be weak, but we signed up for a job that's going to challenge you, that's going to demand the best of you, that might bring out the worst in you, but it's all for something greater. And we signed up to serve and protect. And so if I have to take those bullets, whether they're mental bullets, whether they're trauma bullets, and if I have to take that in order to improve the response of this organization, so that ultimately we can do better on the field, whether it's our members or we have better police in response to the public, to me, that's no different than taking a bullet. Right. And I'm not trying to say like, oh my God, I'm a hero. And I'm just trying to like really emphasize that our members do that every day without realizing those are bullets that you're taking. Yes. Right? Like those are the bullets that you're taking. That's just the nature of this job. And why are you taking those bullets? And so it's easy to get disgruntled. It's easy to think that everybody's against you. It's easy to kind of like have this paranoid viewpoint that, oh, everybody up on top, they want to get rid of me and they're targeting me. And I haven't sat in the room with so many of those people. And again, still being a representative for a membership and sitting with the newer members and the lower ranked members, right? Our constables and corporals. I get those perspectives and I go, nobody wants you to fail. Nobody in that room wearing a white shirt wants you to fail, right? Nobody is out to say, let's get Nikki, like, oh yeah, let's make her life live in hell. No, what we want Nikki to be the best damn employee that there is. Because we need more people like Nikki. We need more people that stepping up. We need more people willing to do this job and willing to put themselves out there and willing to protect and willing to make better what we have. It's not these people sitting up on top that come up with great ideas and suddenly the organization's better. It's the guys in the community that says, I established a relationship with this local community band. This is what I'm doing. And I improve the ties and trust with the community. Or I started this victim program in my community, or I started this restorative justice. Like it's the guys on the field who see gaps, who make changes. And then those are the ones that have the ripple effect, right? So I get it. Again, I get when people get disgruntled and they want to blame the RCMP, but then sometimes you have to take that step back and go, okay, but what do I bring to this table? Right? Am I showing up? And am I in a position to show up? Like maybe mentally I'm not in a position to show up. So I'm causing some shit and I'm not performing the best I should. I'm neglecting my files. I'm neglecting my duties. I'm letting my partners down. Okay, let's reevaluate. Maybe I need to take some time to fix myself. Or it's like you can sit there and be disgruntled because maybe you have a shitty corporal. But what are you doing to fix this situation? And are you going to let that person's attitude really deter you from what you signed up to do? So we own so much more than we think we own. A lot of times people want to put blame back. An organization of this, an organization going through that. I'm like, this is a big moving organization. And from sitting in rooms with high people, there's not once does anybody ever say, we don't care about them. And sometimes it's hard to really show that you do, but that's our bread and butter is the people on the street. And that's the people that are doing the work that need to have the appreciation for what they're doing and also need to understand, like, don't even do it for the RCMP. Like, I don't do this for the RCMP. I'm not sitting here trying to look pretty in my scrunchy ponytail for the RCMP. Right? It's always been about the people that we have to serve. Yeah. Right? So you have a shitty boss? Fine. How are you going to serve that community today? Because they don't give a shit you have a shitty boss. Right? Yeah. Are you going to show up for them today? Are you going to do what you want to do or what needs to be done? Are you going to make their life better today? Yeah. Right? And don't do it for the RCMP. Do it because that's what you took an oath to do. And this is like in your body of serving others. This is what you need to do.
Yeah. I love that. No, it totally does. It totally does. And I think just from what you're saying, it just shows what a true leader you actually are. Like just that you exude true leadership because it's not about you and it's about what you bring. Right. And so, yes, we can internalize it that they're picking on us and that, just like you said, but what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you contributing to it? Are you causing yourself the issues? Are you again, I look back at my career and I think, you really made that fucking tough sometimes. Your fucking mouth and your attitude. Like, why? Why would you? Why? Why the fuck would you pick that fight, you idiot? Yeah. When you are, especially when I knew I was already skating on thin ice, and I was like, let me just push it a little further. What the fuck, right? Yeah. So yeah, and I think that the key thing too is I really love that when you sat back in the midst of all the shit and you reevaluated. You went back to your why. You went back to why did I pick not just policing, not just law enforcement as a career, but why did I pick the RCMP specifically? And where can I help? And leadership is, I think, honestly, across all first responder agencies, leadership is key. And what I find frustrating is that there is a focus on it. There is a focus on leadership. You get sent on leadership courses and you do the fucking what's the latest trend in leadership and la 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 la. But I think that unless you've actually truly promoted people who actually truly believe and live a leadership lifestyle, you're always going to have some shitty leaders because our promotion processes aren't necessarily fair. Yeah. They are, there are processes. And so when you get true leaders into those spots, that's when you see the change happening. I think the frustrating part, again, for me, is when you're a true leader and you get paired up with somebody who is just like negating everything you're doing and you just want to punch them in the face because you're just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I just worked so hard to get this going and you just shit all over it and we're supposed to be partners. Like, you're fucking killing me here, bud. Like,
it's so easy to see who's in it for them and who's in it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Excuse me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, again,
Ego.
you've shared amazing things, and so I'll wrap it up. We've already done the rapid fire questions, so I can't even go
Perfect.
into those. But I'm gonna ask you just a really fun, kind of silly one. So, if a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else, what would you like to know?
Where's that man at? Where's that man at? Where's he at? Facebook dating ain't it? Of a very tall order. I know exactly what I want after being put through the ringer. Where's he at? Just like, and is it going to be like another 20 years of having to find this? Just let me know if I need to get serious, Mom. That's what I want to know.
That's a totally valid. Even not just like even just a time frame would be nice, right? Like just a time frame. Like, am I looking at a year? Am I looking 5 years? Like
is he in LA? Do I have to move to LA? Like, that's problematic. Is he even in Alberta? Like, this is things I want to know.
I love that. Well, listeners, if you are, single and looking to mingle and you would love a lovely, amazing, gorgeous RCMP Staff Sergeant Major named Courtney, she would absolutely love for me to get a hold of you. She would like you to be tall. She would like you to be at least 6'5". Okay, now we're going. That's a tall order. That's legitimate.
I told you it was tall, right? Must love sports.
Must love sports. Okay. I like that. Must love sports. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. I like that. Well, yeah. No. Okay. Well, I'll work on the crystal ball for you. I'll work on my networking skills and see who I can find for a hot date for you. But no, this has been awesome, Courtney. Like, again, thank you. Because I know like the last 2.5 years has been really like turmoil for you. A lot of times just in talking during coaching and rugby and stuff like that. I know you've really been through the ringer, like you said, like in just all aspects of life. And so just to see you on the other side, like shining and just thriving the way you are, just, I love it. I love that for you. I think it couldn't have happened to a better person. Not that I wanted the turmoil to happen, but to see you now and to see just how happy you are, I think is phenomenal. So yay for that. Love that. And just keep doing what you're doing. Keep leading with that awesome integrity and that accountability and that beautiful spark and energy and fire. And I will see those ripple effects. I'm sure I will. I will hear about it. I will see it. I will know that you've made an impact no matter what you do. And if there's anything you can say about your life, it's that you left a lasting impact, and you will have done. So love you, girl. Love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.